Japanese RPGs have seen an incredible revitalization this generation. There have just been a lot of great JRPGs, maybe not even in terms of quantity, but in terms of recognition. Yeah, Japanese RPGs seem to be at a height that they haven't been at for quite a while, maybe going back to the PlayStation 2 days, and that's not slowing down anytime soon when it comes to PlayStation 4 JRPGs, as there's a lot more exciting titles coming out. And in today's video, we're just gonna be looking at 10 of the highly anticipated PlayStation 4 JRPGs in 2019 and 2020. Now, this isn't even a rundown of all of the JRPGs in development. These are just 10 that we've picked out and we're highly excited for, but do expect updated videos as more games are announced, and we're gonna cover all of the titles as we get closer and closer to release. So with that being said, let's get right into it. And kicking things off, I think it's appropriate to start off with arguably the biggest JRPG in development, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Considering that it does look like it'll be separated into 2 episodes, I guess we'll go with episode 1 to start things off. Final Fantasy VII is a game that we've wanted a remake on for so long, going back to 2005, 2006 when we saw that Final Fantasy VII tech demo on the PlayStation 3. Took a lot longer than it really should have, but now the Final Fantasy VII Remake is in development. It's coming to the PlayStation 4, and originally it was announced back in 2015. After that, we hadn't heard from it for quite a while, but most recently we did get a new trailer, and it looks like the game's development is going along very well. We should hear a sizable update about the game come E3, and that's where we should have a lot of clarity in terms of how this game is going to be released, when this game is going to be released, and a lot of other features. But I am incredibly excited for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and hopefully it's out by the end of this year. I know that's probably a little bit too much of a stretch. It'll probably be an early 2020 or late 2020 game, which at that point, do you consider it being a PlayStation 5 title instead of a PlayStation 4 game? Hopefully we get answers to all of those questions come E3. Next up, we have Project Sakura Wars. That's coming spring 2020, and another franchise that's making a comeback. Sega Sakura Wars was a series that had made an impact over in Japan. We only got one title over here in the States, but now we are getting Project Sakura Wars, and it's already been confirmed that this game is coming stateside. The game is set in a romanticized version of 1940s Imperial Tokyo. 10 years ago, a cataclysm resulted in a devastating loss of the Imperial Combat Revue of Tokyo, the capital's global defense force operating out of the Imperial Theater. This game is going to combine a lot of different elements, part dating sim, part visual novel, part JRPG in terms of its combat and mechanics. There's a lot of elements that's marrying Sakura Wars together, but these games have generally been received pretty well. It's just that commercially they haven't been always the best, especially the game that was released over here in the States. Hopefully with Project Sakura Wars, it tells a different story, and again, it will be dropping sometime in spring 2020. Alright, next up, if you guys have been following this channel, you know how highly I think of the Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel series, and we know that Trails of Cold Steel 2 and 3 are coming to the PlayStation 4 later this year. Trails of Cold Steel 2 is actually dropping on June 4th, and Trails of Cold Steel 3 looks to be coming sometime in November. These games are absolutely tremendous. I can't go too into them without delving into spoilers, but Trails of Cold Steel 1 is already out. That's the first part of the 4-part series, so yes, while Trails of Cold Steel 2 and 3 are coming to the PS4 this year, that doesn't even conclude the series. What's the conclusion is Trails of Cold Steel 4, and hopefully that comes out sometime in 2020, 2021. There's a lot of translation that has to be done, so I can see them taking their time with this one to make sure the translation is on point. Trails of Cold Steel 2 has already been released on PC, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation Vita, so technically it's nothing to write home about. Generally, these games aren't technical juggernauts. However, they are very compelling Japanese RPGs with great stories, great characters. Probably not the best JRPGs for newcomers. However, if you are already entrenched into the world of JRPGs, Trails of Cold Steel is going to be right up your alley. Definitely do give the first game a look, then pick up the second, then pick up the third, and definitely do play these games chronologically, because while yes, they do have recap videos, you're only going to get so much out of a recap video as you're going to get through, you know, playing a 60 to 70 hour JRPG. Next up is a game that's taking the JRPG world by storm, and that is Persona 5 The Royal. That's coming out later this year in Japan, probably 2020 stateside, but Persona 5 The Royal looks to be the definitive version of Persona 5, very similar to Persona 3 FES and Persona 4 Golden. However, Persona 5 The Royal looks to take that to another level in terms of all of the content that they're adding. A whole new semester and just an overall refined experience. It is a little bit of a bummer that it is going to be released as a completely separate title. That's probably going to cost $60 nowadays that we do have expansions, downloadable content, whatever the case may be. For those of us that own the base Persona 5 game, it would have been nice if Persona 5 The Royal could be a $20 to $30 downloadable expansion, but it seems like that won't be necessarily the case. However, Persona is one of those franchises that I think people are okay with spending whatever amount of money to get more Persona content, so I think people are going to be satisfied either way. Whatever the case may be, Persona 5 The Royal will be coming in 2020. Next up, we have Granblue Fantasy Relink. This is a super stylish JRPG, and originally, Platinum Games was working alongside Cygames to bring this game to reality, and it was shaping up very nicely. Unfortunately, Platinum Games left the project earlier in 2019, but it seems like they had already done a great deal of work on it, and they probably set the fundamentals in place for this game to still turn out rather well. And the bulk of what it built remains, including the level layout, character animation, and fighting systems, and all of that looks really good, especially from a presentation standpoint. The soundtrack, music, visuals, all of that looks incredibly well, and the game itself mostly progresses in a linear fashion, but there will be additional activities. You'll be able to pick up side quests from the towns you visit along the way and come and go between them as you please. I'm really hoping we're going to see this game released sooner rather than later. It's been in development for quite a while, but it's about time we get it in our hands, and Granblue Fantasy Relink hopefully will drop 2020. Next up, speaking of games that have been in development for quite a while, Code Vein has really been in development for a while, but it should be coming out sometime in 2019. It's about to embark in its alpha testing, and it has you create your own character and choose your partner as you venture out into a world of destruction overrun by the Lost. Throughout the game, you'll use your combined strength to coordinate your approach and defend each other from surprise attacks or overpower enemies using your blood veil and various weapons. Change the feel of the game depending on which partner you choose, each with their own combat style and background story. There's going to be a litany of different weapons, and do expect this to be a little bit more of a challenging game. There's been a lot of comparisons drawn to games such as God Eater, Monster Hunter, Dark Souls, and a marriage of all of those IPs. Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting, but we'll see how Code Vein turns out. Hopefully it's out before the end of this year. I imagine that this will be one of the bigger releases come this fall. Next up, we have the latest game in the Ys franchise in IX Monstrum Nox. This is a game where its promotion has been done very well. It really set the tone of this being a much more darker Ys titles than we've experienced in the past. With IX Monstrum Nox, do expect maps that are three-dimensional with different levels of elevation, jumping, and vertical actions have been increased. 40 to 50% of the map is in the city, and one of the biggest elements of the game is the prison itself. And I spoke a little bit about the promotion, and that's because the main character, the typical main character of Ys in Adol, was absent from the promotion for quite a while. That got a lot of people talking, but now we do know that Adol will be a main character in the game. He's the oldest that he's ever been. And Ys 9 is shaping up quite nicely. Ys 8 was rather good, and I imagine if Ys 9 can just build upon the foundation that that game set on the PlayStation 4 and create this darker tone, Monstrum Nox could turn out to be a really good game. Should be out sometime in 2020 over here in the States, will be coming 2019 in Japan. Next up, we have a new game in the Atelier franchise, in Atelier Ryza. Atelier Ryza was just announced, and it's the latest game in the long-running franchise, and development of the game is led by Gus Nagano's studio, and the concept itself was developed alongside Atelier Lulula. Full-blown development began around July of 2018, so it's still pretty fresh in terms of development, and they wanted to depict a coming-of-age stories for boys and girls, so the concept of the game is something like summer memories. The game was noted to have more realistic visuals and have lifelike proportions, which is a significant change from their visual expression on PlayStation. The Atelier franchise hasn't been one that I've always been very big on. However, this one, with its different visual style and overhauled combat system, it definitely has garnered my interest. We'll see how it turns out. Hopefully it's out sometime in 2020. Development was noted to only be around 45% completed as of the recording of this video. Next up, Sword Art Online is getting quite possibly its most compelling video game yet, in Sword Art Online Alicization Lycoris. This one actually takes you through the story of Sword Art Online, so in that case, it's very exciting. It has you play as series protagonist Kirito and become immersed in the underworld, a mysterious virtual world set in the anime series Alicization arc, featuring epic battles, stunning JRPG visuals, and an expansive world to explore. Kirito's journey through the latest Sword Art Online game is ready to begin. The game is following the events of the anime series, and Kirito finds himself in a mysterious but familiar virtual world, underworld where AIs behave like human. If you're a fan of Sword Art Online, this game is going to be right up your alley. If you're not a fan, we'll see how the gameplay turns out. We'll see how it is mechanically, voice acting, presentation, all of those elements need to come together for non-fans. But it's an exciting release nonetheless. We don't have an official release date, but hopefully it's out by the end of this year or early next. And lastly, I want to give a mention to Digimon Survive. This is a very exciting Digimon title. It's a survival strategy role-playing game where players' choices influence the direction of the story, including the Digimon's Digivolution process. Multiple playthroughs can result in different paths and different Digivolutions. The game will feature multiple endings, and should wrong choices be made, characters themselves can be killed off. So it's got a little bit of elements of a strategy RPG. You've got some visual novel elements in there, a lot of decision-making. Altogether, it looks to be a very compelling Digimon game, and Digimon has been making a return into the video game scene. We'll see how Digimon Survive turns out, as it looks to be dropping on the PlayStation 4 sometime in 2019. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, there are a lot of exciting JRPGs in development, and we've only gone over 10 of them. There are a ton more in development, and we'll update this list as more are announced. But that's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.